Welcome to part 2 of the Timeline Jump. I'm Andy Murphy, and this is coming from our teacher Thoth. And in part 1, he was teaching us about quadrality. Make sure you check out that video if you haven't yet. And all of this came from the Cosmic Mama podcast, episode 15. You can hear the full expanse of it there if you're interested. And if you really want all of the deep dive Akashic teachings and teachings of the Egyptian mystery schools, that's going to be happening for you over at Patreon, because that was just a little too much to put out in this public forum. So as you get into part 2, we're going to discuss not only how to do this timeline jump, but we're also going to be offering an activation of that cosmic lube, because that wording just makes me giggle every time I say it. And isn't that the point? We want this to be fun. We want this to be light. So allow yourself to receive my love, and I hope it feels amazing for you. And any discussion on timelines is going to be, for me, an experience in the Akashic. And I'm invoking now both Thoth and Shisahat, keepers of the Akashic records. Thoth, who creates time; Shisahat, who creates space. And playing on that web a little bit, if you can feel it or see it. I have a tendency to rock, to sway. There it is. I always fucking rock. But I want you to sway, maybe, if that's the energy that comes in. But to me, it feels like gliding through that Akashic field, through that web. Staying at center. Notice the polarities and maybe the duality, maybe the quadrality. Because time is ceasing to exist. Thoth dropped this in this morning as I was getting ready for you. Thoth brought in the sun, and when he brought the sun, time began. You might see that timeline like a tunnel. You might feel that timeline like a threshold, like a frequency that needs to be penetrated or crossed through. There will be one experience on this planet where things get pretty dark and shaky, scary. The timeline that the mass majority of people will be, vast majority of people, masses of people, there you go, will be going through, are going to be, from my perception, largely unpleasant. I don't want to be on that timeline. That looks hard. They will need that to wake up. They will need that for their own ascension. Thank you. Gaia is showing it to me as if that is the last-ditch effort to get them to realize their true spiritual potentiality, their true existence as a being of divine and infinite potential. Wow. That timeline has to happen so that as many as possible might be crushed by the heaviness of things, that they wake up to the lightness of things. Cool. As they're waking up to the lightness of things, cool, we're already up there operating at that lightness of things. And they're like, come on up, it's fine up here. Come on up. Jessa Reed has talked for a bit about her vision of, like, we literally pluck them up. And I think it makes sense right now as I'm seeing it. That is that timeline split. They will not want to stay in that. They don't have to stay in that. But they will have to awaken on their own timeline. They will have to awaken of their own free will. They will have to say, I don't accept these things that are going on. I need to know truth now. And as they do that, they will be alleviated. They will be able to join us here on this higher vibrational timeline. Cool. Not better or worse. We all have our own experiences. All of us must gain the totality of these experiences to take it back into the infinite, to become gods again. So when we talk about you're becoming divine, yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. It's not that you're better than, it's not that you're a god. No. And yes. Duality. We can't even fucking properly explain it here because it even has that, push and pull, that confusion, those opposing forces, right? Yeah, it's fucking sexy. And speaking of those opposing forces, we are grieving and birthing at the same time. So maybe that's a very good languaging to put on the timelines, rather than higher or lower, rather than better or worse. I certainly have a fucking choice which timeline I want to be on. There's one timeline that will be grieving and dying. There's one timeline that will be birthing. And I'm just asking if that's fair languaging, and they all seem, I know, you even heard my voice change. They seem to like that languaging. Let's be on the birthing timeline, shall we? And I'm just asking for any explicit directives to guide you now onto that higher frequency timeline, onto the birthing timeline. And they say the only thing that you really need to do is continually choose. I choose to stay awake. I choose to contribute to the birthing of a new earth. Because I've done my work of looking at my shadows. I am aware of what's going on. I don't need to continually remind myself of how hateful humans have been. I don't need to understand why some humans are so hateful. Nope, I'm on the birthing timeline. Thanks. And on that birthing timeline, they're just giving us another activation now of infusing your light body with that. I shared it with a girlfriend last week. That idea of grief and death, of recognizing something about ourselves that we may not have wanted to see, of losing something that we didn't think we would have to lose. So surrendering that as quickly as possible, accepting that reality. So as soon as we have that thing that is so, hard, heartbreaking, grief, loss, letting go, surrender into it, accept it, cosmic lube, sooner you can accept it, the quicker we can move. The words of Noah Lampert, really, I listened to them at exactly the right time of as soon as something is really hurting, something amazing must be coming. Oh my gosh, let's open up the whole field of possibilities. Something amazing must be coming if that thing just left. So I played with that. So we take the cosmic hit, we experience the loss, we feel it. Because you must know, honey, feeling is the key to all of this. Not thinking. You don't navigate with a mind. You navigate with your feelings. And these feelings, they say, will actually be deepening for us because we've been okay inhabiting heart. They say these next, thank you, yes, heard, August, September, October, it's going to be really helpful if you can inhabit solar plexus. So if you can be doing that space between, weaving together those energies of heart and of sacral. So that gut knowing, that heart knowing, inhabiting solar plexus is going to be where we feel now. My heart needs to feel it. My sacral needs to feel it. Maybe my root needs to feel it. And then we come back into this space of inhabiting solar plexus. That is our power. That is our true center. So we grieve and we let go. And sometimes this happens physically. Sometimes it's emotionally. I hope it's all of them. It needs to be all of them. Grieve it at every level of your senses and of your human experience. And then with the empty space that's created from that, you invite in the divine. You invite in nature. You invite in sexy. You invite in joy. You invite in endless possibilities, and any fucking thing can happen. Thanks. We're going to just work with that now for a second. I'm going to do a little bit of sound over here for you. So would you allow yourself... So if you can remember, or maybe just call into the forefront of your experience right now, something that hurts. Let's just make that easy. Instead of needing to understand why, just accept it as a fact. Accept it as reality. Feel the loss of that. The panic. Maybe that's just my attachment shit. And notice where that emptiness is, where that void has been created. And instead of the void just pulsating with pain and pus and sadness and anger and resentment, bitterness, Invite in the sun. Invite in the wind. Invite in Gaia in the fullness of fresh summer berries and peaches. Allow yourself to be filled with the juiciness of this earth experience. And as you're breathing in and through your body, I want you to really breathe it in. Maybe breathing in at root, letting it come all the way up to crown. And then it's going to do that torus field where it circles above you to the left. To the left, baby, to the left. So instead of just bringing it in, then we start vibrating with it. We start activating it within and through us. Not like a pillar. You're a self-contained field of delight. Of awakening consciousness. The blessings of divinity. The acceptance of duality. I've got an image of Bridget in here that's just staring at me as I'm saying this. So yeah, she's in full support. And maybe even using that imagery of Bridget right now. Ooh, she's got all those flames of fire above her head, huh? Those flames. Full fucking awareness. As you're in your full fucking awareness, you'll realize you become more awake within the dream state as well. You don't need to do any lucid dreaming to make that happen. That will just be a natural byproduct of your awakening state. How you feeling? I feel pretty good over here. Feels nice to share it. And as I step in, it's a cool thing. Like if I ask to feel how you guys are feeling, just so I can guide you through a little different. Oh yeah. Good job. And I remind you that you don't need to know how. Energy already knows how to do exactly what it's supposed to do. The divine design already exists within everything. Your knowing of how is just a fucking mental hoop that you play with sometimes. Please don't. You don't need to know how. You just give the divine directive. That was part of today's message. The divine directive. I'm asking now, Thoth, if there's anything else that needs to be shared today. No, he just said watch for the splitting of the timelines. Like there will be a threshold. There will be a conscious choice that you have to make out of free will of, I choose to be on the birthing timeline. And looking back too much or reaching down. I know they're talking about Ruth and the pillar of salt. Fuck, I don't know Bible stuff, but like she looked back. That was the problem, right? Isn't that how that went? I don't know. We'll ask my friend Ruth, who actually is quite a good biblical scholar. Or y'all can let me know. Thank you. If you look back, we're in trouble. And that doesn't mean that you are callous or an asshole. It means that when you radiate at a different frequency of truth, other people feel it and will be inspired by it. That is the only way you can wake anyone else up. By you being awake. Radiantly, unapologetically, in a place where everything is fine when the world is fucking crumbling. Because our world won't crumble. Our world is within, not without. Does that make sense? This is the one that we've been tending. We will be stable because we have done this inner work. And if this inner work is new to you, ooh, baby, get going, get going. No urgency in that, but stay committed and stay focused. Sorting out those shadows within and tending them instead of looking away, running from, being scared, or denying them. We don't have time for that anymore. Really, don't have time for that. Your greatest job is to stay in your joy. Your greatest delight is to stay in your joy. because exciting things are happening. But there will be a moment where you must choose, and you will know whatever that threshold is, whatever that choice is. And if you're having trouble when that choice is coming up, just maybe ask Thoth to be there with you. Ask any of your guides or guardians who help you feel safe and strong to be there with you. Make the choice, honey. There could be a few questions that come up for you from what came through today. Totally fine. Best place for me to be able to support you in that, Patreon, because we do a monthly Q&A on Patreon that you get to participate in with us live. That's where I can answer all of the questions. Trying to do it any other way, it would just take up all my time. And time doesn't exist, but also, I've got to stay committed and focused on what I am being asked to do. Glad to share this time, space with you. Glad to share Shisahat and Thoth with you. And if the questions come up, thank you, Patreon, where I can help and support. And ask your own guides. Really, fucking truly, you don't always need me, and you don't always need answers. So feel this, please. Integrate this, please. Celebrate how good you're doing, because you really are doing fucking phenomenal. Yeah, baby. That's how we do it around here. I hope this helped you feel incredible, and more than just feeling, I hope that it gives you tools and practical ways to really begin to anchor into this new birthing timeline. The urgency of this is profound. The more of us who can be holding this vibration, the quicker things can change on this planet. And not changing in the way of it's all unraveling, because we know it's all unraveling. What we want is to feel like we have some capability to maybe co-create, to maybe bring in that new Gaia energy, the new Earth energy, and to really anchor in our light on this planet so that things don't have to get so very tricky. I hope I'm right. Let me say that too. I don't usually have too much attachment to being right or wrong, but I've had my ass handed to me. I'm sure you have in your own ways in 2020. So let's see what we can do collectively, shall we? Full podcast of this over at the Cosmic Mama podcast. And if you want the deeper teachings, you can join me anytime over at Patreon. Our mystery school is the Luminous Mysteries. So much love to you until next time.